The first time, Patricia Mallory called the sheriff on us. She was standing at the end of my driveway with a clipboard in one hand and a stack of fake HOA fines in the other. Behind her was a Deputy East Cruiser. Beside her were two board members from Cedar Ridge Estates, both wearing matching polo shirts, like they had arrived for some kind of official inspection. One of them had a camera. The other had a folded map. Patricia stood in front of them all, chin high, sunglasses on, looking at my old farmhouse like it was a stain on her perfect neighborhood. She told the deputy we were refusing to comply with community rules. She said we had ignored membership notices, refused to pay assessments, kept an unauthorized trailer beside the garage, failed to repaint our mailbox, and created what she called visual disorder along the Cedar Ridge corridor. Then she pointed at me and said, "He has been warned multiple times. We need law enforcement to document his refusal." There was just one problem. We were not in her HO. Our farmhouse had been there long before Cedar Ridge Estates existed. We had our own parcel number, our own deed, our own driveway, our own county road access, and a title policy that clearly said our property was not subject to Cedar Ridge covenants. The subdivision wrapped around us on two sides, but wrapping around a property does not make it yours. I told the deputy that as calmly as I could. Patricia laughed under her breath. Then she pulled out a glossy map and said, "That is not accurate. This home is within the community footprint." Community footprint. That was her favorite phrase. Not recorded plat, not deed restriction, not signed covenant. Footprint, a word soft enough to sound official and vague enough to mean whatever she wanted it to mean. Me. She told the deputy Cedar Ridge had absorbed the border properties through planned integration. She said our refusal to sign the membership acknowledgement was creating enforcement problems. And she even said the HOA was preparing to file a lien for unpaid dues if we did not cooperate. That was when my wife, Emily, walked out of the house. She did not raise her voice or threaten anyone. She just came down the porch steps holding a folder, stood beside me, and listened while Patricia kept talking. Patricia barely looked at her. That was her mistake, because Emily knew land records better than anyone on that driveway. She worked as a federal property records investigator, spending her days reading deeds, easements, plat maps, title chains, and survey descriptions. Emily opened the folder and handed the deputy our recorded deed, the final Cedar Ridge plat, our title policy, and a federal utility easement file tied to the old farm parcel. Then she showed him her federal ID. Patricia stopped talking, for the first time since she had started harassing us. The woman who had sent fines, threats, and fake compliance notices looked genuinely afraid. Emily simply proved in front of law enforcement that Patricia's map was not a recorded document. Her fines had no legal basis, her lien threats were improper, and her entire campaign had been built on a planning exhibit that was never approved, never recorded, and never attached to our deed. By the time the county attorney finished reviewing what Patricia had done, Cedar Ridge had to cancel every fine, withdraw every lien threat, reimburse our legal costs, and admit in writing that our farmhouse was not part of their HO. Patricia lost her position as HOA president. The management company lost the contract, and the fake boundary map became the first exhibit in the file that brought her down when Emily and I bought the farmhouse. People asked why we wanted the old place when Cedar Ridge Estates was right next door. They saw the peeling white paint, the crooked mailbox, and the trailer I used for hauling mulch. But we saw peace. The farmhouse sat on just under 5 acres, tucked between an old county road and the newer subdivision. We did not want a clubhouse, a pool key, or an architectural review committee telling us what color our front door should be. Before we closed, Emily checked everything. She pulled the county tax records, read the deed, and compared the parcel map with a recorded plat for Cedar Ridge Estates. She looked up and said, "This house is clean. Not in the HOA, no recorded covenants, and no assessment obligation." Cedar Ridge Estates had been built about 15 years before we moved in. The original developer apparently tried to buy the farmhouse parcel during the early planning stages, but the prior owner refused to sell. So Cedar Ridge was built around it, for a while. Life was quiet. Then Patricia Mallory became HOA president. Patricia did not like exceptions. She liked uniformity. Our farmhouse offended her. The mailbox was old. The gravel driveway did not match their paved lanes. My utility trailer sat beside the garage. The first letter was polite. inviting us to voluntarily align our exterior appearance with community standards. Emily filed it away. The second letter called our mailbox non-compliant. The third mentioned grass height, and the fourth used the phrase visual corridor. Then came the formal packet, Cedar Ridge Estates membership acknowledgement and community integration form. It stated that because our property sat within the community footprint, we were expected to pay a maintenance contribution and submit exterior changes for review. We sent a short certified letter explaining that our parcel was not part of Cedar Ridge Estates, enclosing our dereference and final plat page. Patricia S. response came 3 days later, claiming we were misunderstanding the broader community framework. She never answered the legal question directly with a recorded document. She just talked about border consistency and shared expectations. The pressure escalated quickly. First came an invoice for quarterly dues, then a late fee, then a compliance notice for the mailbox, followed by a fine for the trailer. Each envelope came with a green HOA logo, and each one went into Emily's evidence folder. We answered everything once, in writing, requesting any recorded document giving Cedar Ridge authority over our parcel. They sent none. Instead, Patricia mailed a revised balance statement showing 3 years of back assessments, late fees, and a non-member integration surcharge, totaling $18,742. Then came an email stating that membership was not optional once a property became part of the community footprint, threatening lien preparation and access restrictions. The only easement on our land was an old utility easement recorded decades earlier, limited to infrastructure maintenance. It did not give the HOA the right to inspect our house or collect dues. Emily printed the email, highlighted the threats, and made copies for our records and our attorney, Martin Greer. That brings us back to that Saturday morning when Patricia showed up with 2 board members and a property manager to document ongoing violations, when I told her she was trespassing. She claimed inspection authority over integrated border properties, calling my deed the county's record, while hers was the community's position. I took out my phone and started recording, prompting her to call the sheriff, claiming an aggressive homeowner was obstructing a lawful inspection. When Deputy Harris arrived, Patricia handed him the glossy map where our farmhouse parcel was shaded the same color as Cedar Ridge common areas. The developer had drawn that preliminary exhibit years ago as a potential future acquisition wish list, but it was never final, never signed, and never recorded. Patricia had edited out the uncertainty, wiping away the labels to make it look like our property had been absorbed. When Emily walked out and presented our actual gold-sealed certified documents, the deputy turned to Patricia and asked, "Do you have any recorded document showing they are in your HOA?" Patricia could only stammer that the property had been functionally integrated. Deputy Harris replied plainly, "That is not what I asked." Our attorney, Martin Greer, joined on speakerphone, stating that the HOA had zero authority to demand dues, conduct inspections, or use law enforcement to pressure non-members. Patricia had wanted law enforcement to document our refusal, but instead, they documented her inability to produce authority. Once Martin sent the full packet to the county attorney, the question became whether the HOA knowingly attempted to collect money and threaten title action against a property outside its jurisdiction. This terrified the board, because an independent audit would expose whether other border parcels had been billed incorrectly under these fake maps. The county attorney's formal letter arrived at Cedar Ridge on a Tuesday, and by Wednesday morning, the property management company stopped sending us invoices. The county requested all billing records, lien drafts, and maps used to represent association boundaries, reminding the board that assessment authority must be grounded in recorded covenants, not neighborhood expectations. The title company issued a letter confirming our farmhouse was entirely exempt, warning that any recorded lien would be treated as unsupported and heavily disputed. The property management company tried to escape the fire, turning over internal emails to our attorney. The records showed that a manager had explicitly warned Patricia that our parcel did not appear in the assessment roll, to which Patricia had replied, "Proceed, we are establishing integration, and pressure may resolve the issue before filing." That email proved she had not been confused. She had been trying to create a covenant through sheer intimidation. At the packed Cedar Ridge community meeting, Martin Greer projected the official land records on the screen. Alongside Patricia's altered map and her repeated billing email, the room went completely silent. Residents realized the board had gambled association funds on a non-member property, ignoring warnings from their own management company. Cedar Ridge's insurance carrier immediately issued a reservation of rights letter, refusing to cover intentional or deceptive acts, leaving the board members personally exposed to massive financial liability. The board voted to suspend all enforcement efforts against our property, and Patricia resigned in disgrace before a formal removal vote could even happen. The property management company lost its contract the following month, and the new board adopted a strict boundary verification policy, permanently banning the phrase integration effort from their language. The final civil settlement agreement was absolute. Cedar Ridge Estates formally acknowledged that our farmhouse was not part of the HOA, canceled every single fake invoice, late fee, surcharge, and legally withdrew the draft lien. They reimbursed all of our attorney fees, survey costs, and certified records fees, alongside a heavy financial sum for the harassment and disruption caused by the driveway incident and false sheriff calls. They were also forced to send an official correction letter to every resident in the neighborhood, stating plainly that our property was completely independent and that prior statements suggesting otherwise were incorrect. We kept our farmhouse exactly the way we wanted it. We repainted the mailbox a bright red because Emily liked it, kept the utility trailer beside the garage, and installed a small sign at the end of the driveway reading, "Private property, not subject to Cedar Ridge HO." A clipboard, a logo, and a confident voice can look official, but real authority must be recorded, signed, and filed with a book and page number. Patricia came to our driveway thinking the sheriff would force us to sign into her kingdom, but instead, she created the exact paper trail that exposed her. We never joined Cedar Ridge. We never paid $1 in dues, and the farmhouse is still standing exactly where it always stood, outside her HOA, outside her rules, and completely outside her reach.